Hi everyone, and welcome to the FusionSpace, the visual part of it anyway. I like to think of the FusionSpace as the imagination space we all share together when we experience these stories. It's where I go to merge my consciousness with them and examine all the roles and events to make the show, and where you and I go to enjoy the program when it's finished. It's a theater of the mind, I suppose. And I really like that scene in The Last Green Arrow where they're all watching the shaman perform the lion dance. I mentioned in my script that it's a play that's different for every person's mind, yet they're all guided by the same source. And I hope it was clear I was linking that old form of storytelling to what we're doing here and now in our high-tech future. This does feel like the high-tech future to me, having grown up as an 80s kid. I mean, I used to run around and play in the woods because there was nothing on TV. I had about 10 NES games, and it was great. I have seen kids play outside in the here and now, though, so I'm glad it's not a lost art. Imaginative play is very important, not just to kids, but for us as well. I hope that with this show I help your imaginations grow as well. That I demonstrate a method of how to read comics and help them unfold in your mind on your own. And if you can carry my voices into them with you, so much the better. I certainly do that with voices from my favorite narrators as well. I love all the great comments I get too. I have a kind and thoughtful audience, and that's worth more than all the money in the world. I love doing this show. It was a gamble setting up because I knew I wanted to focus on old and unadapted comics and see if they had the same power that they do for others for me when they're played out like this. So the success really validates my belief in my efforts and the material. I plan to keep going until I can't anymore. I've got a lot of what I wanted to show off started, but there's tons more to go. I'm actually at a point where I might have to start digging around in my old comics for ideas. I usually just go off memory. It's safe at another house, but I might have to work on getting them here. And also now that I'm finally going to start making some money, I do plan to get a better mic, a sound effects suite. There will be improvements to the show down the line, but I've just now gotten my banking information sorted out. Now, I'm not good at this real life stuff if you haven't caught on. Anyway, it's all personal stuff. On that note, I've since gotten a new cat. Her name is Lois Jetson because the Humane Society, her tag said Jetson, and she's orange like my previous cat George, who we lost last winter. And so is Lois Lane's cat in the Superman comics, whose name happens to be Elroy. For you kids, Elroy is the youngest child of the Jetsons, hence Lois Jetson. She's an explorer and spends a lot of time outside and playing with the kitten who my housemates have. I herd all the cats here, and that's the way I like it. Now then, 2 orders of business before I end this. First up is my new fan edit, which I'll explain right now, and then I'll close out with some upcoming projects I have planned for the near future and further on. Pixels released pretty bad reviews in 2015, and I can see why. Adam is not suited to the role. It was poorly calculated and his character is too unlikable, especially as concerns the love subplot. However, surrounding his character are a group of old friends and rivals acting out their 80s childhood dreams in the modern day and repelling an alien invasion that ought to be treated with some level of respect and drama, as people are killed in the conflict. By heavily reducing Adam's role and love plot to a minimum of function in the story and cutting many of the sillier, meaner, or just ill-timed jokes, I believe I have reshaped the story into an ensemble of friends. Somewhat led by President Kevin James on the human side, and somewhat by Adam on the video game alien side, but no one hogs focus as dramatic scenes retain their intended impact. What I've done, in short, is fix the movie. Also, I think it wasn't as well known back in 2015 who Billy Mitchell was. The king of Donkey Kong and also the most famous cheater in video game history. And Peter Dinklage's character is a parody of him in those respects, and I think that flew right over the audience's heads at the time. The RLM review doesn't even make a mention of it, nor do any others I watched to identify people's largest problems with the film, despite the mullet. I hope you'll give it a shot, because I always thought there was a pretty good alien invasion and video game nostalgia trip movie in there that got obscured by some horrifically misbegotten scenes and elements that were ruining the larger whole. I'm a little younger than Adam. I would say I grew up on the NES more than the arcades, and his cutoff is far earlier than mine for what a retro arcade game is. But I do have a deep connection to that era of gaming, as those games were still around all through my time in the arcades. I just had less of a connection with it than the 70s kid would have. But the idea is very appealing and holds together logically as well as Transformers, I think, if not better. So that was never the problem, and I made no attempt to improve the logic of the story except as to how we view the characters. If that was your issue, well, you've been fairly warned. Now on to future projects, which may or may not materialize. I've always wanted to cover J.M. DeMatteis, I've heard? I'm not sure. Moonshadow is the book, though, and I'll start that after Before Watchmen is finally done. It'll take the artistic slot. It'll probably be 3 or 4 parts. It's a 12-issue maxi series, beautifully painted by John L. Muth. But each chapter is very fulfilling, so I don't think anyone will be saying, oh, there wasn't enough story in this part. It'll be like Promethea, where you get a big chunk, and in the end it'll be like 3 big movies. I've also got plans to start in the Electric Blue Superman arc, which I love that period of Superman. It's so much fun. It's like the Night Quest era where they change everything about the hero, and it's really interesting. And and people make fun of it. It was pretty popular and well liked at the time. The cultural perception has not carried through to the future. But his powers had become boring. It was time for a change. It was really cool and interesting, and really fit the late 90s aspect of like everything's changing so fast. The computer age is hitting, and having Superman who could interact with digital data was quite useful for storytelling. In fact, after Death and Return and Nightfall, the Electric Blue Superman will probably be the third most popular thing on the channel when all is said and done. So I do plan to start on that pretty soon as well. Now, I will find more Batman stories, but I'm basically done with the main Batman 90s continuity of events. I stopped reading after No Man's Land, Bruce Wayne Murder didn't really grab me. They split the books into different, the same thing happened to Superman with the triangle number of books being split happened in Batman. And I kind of dropped off the regular reading. But there's tons of other Batman stories, Elseworld stories. Now that I've gotten a lot of the continuity established, to start stepping out of it and showing you more interesting takes on the characters, which runs your idea of the character as a whole, and you see what elements stick and what elements don't. We'll get into more Batman. There's always going to be plenty of Batman, even without the events, trust me. But for right now, the big thing will be JLA, a skeleton of hero books, everyone in the JLA. If you watch JLA and you like Wonder Woman or Aquaman, you can follow them into their own episodes and then maybe find a section of comics you like to read. That's the structure for the near future for DC. Marvel, I plan to bring in some more X-Men, the Magneto War I'll do. Those from 1998, 99. After Magneto got his mind and memories back after Fatal Attractions, that was his big reappearance. And I always loved it, and that was sort of my next big X-Men event. And there's other X-Men runs, new X-Men, my Morrison, and Whedon's Astonishing already has a motion comic. I'll probably leave that be, but Warren Ellis did a great job with the Counter X books. Everybody got a revamp. I'll probably highlight that at some point. So there is more Marvel coming as well. But I've got to get into my basement comics and look for more stuff to adapt. I've been doing this 3 years. I've hit all the, not all, but a lot of the big, the signpost ones that I wanted to hit. It's time to get more creative. But I don't plan to stop at all. I plan to keep going with the show as long as I can. Get a new computer, new mic, new, better equipment. This show is finally going to start actually being a way for me to live and make money. And that was never the point, but I'm very glad it has gotten here. It validates my efforts. And I can't thank all of you enough for subscribing. 2,000 subscribers. Check out the Pixels fan edit. I love my Cat Lois, and I love you all. Thanks for watching. You keep watching, and I'll keep making them.